Are we about to see an Israeli-American strike in Iran? President Donald Trump declared, if Iran doesn't make a deal, it will be bombed. And these will be bombs that it had never seen before. For its part, Iran has denied direct negotiations with the United States on a new nuclear deal, but not indirect talks. And now, the president is escalating his threats. It appears to be a clash between American determination and Iranian paranoia, while Israeli intelligence thinks that the decisive moments are approaching. President Trump is definitely increasing pressure on Iran, and it seems to be working as the Ayatollah regime is in panic mode. And meanwhile, the military power deployed by the Pentagon in the region is reaching critical mass, with aircraft carriers in the Red Sea and the Persian Gulf, and another one on its way. In Tehran, they're threatening that Iran's missiles are ready to be launched, even towards Israel, but also towards the British and American forces deployed on the Indian Ocean island of Diego Garcia. An Iranian official threatened that there will be no distinction between British or American forces if Iran is attacked from any base in this area. With all that in mind, a tsunami of violence is expected to happen in the Middle East 1 minute after Iran's nuclear facilities are hit. In the Gaza Strip, Hamas terrorists are falling like dominoes, and the organization is in great distress as senior Israeli officials declare that if Hamas agrees to the Witkoff outline, we will discuss Phase B of the ceasefire agreement. But if Hamas does not respond to the proposal soon, the military pressure will increase. And meanwhile, in the Gaza Strip, reports surfaced that 9 terrorists were eliminated in an Israeli Air Force strike over the past 24 hours, as the army is also preparing for a more significant territorial hold inside Gaza in the event that negotiations will collapse. And closer to home, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu hosted his Greek counterpart in Jerusalem on Sunday and discussed, among other things, deepening the regional cooperation. Further afield, the dramatic results of the strikes against the Houthis in Yemen are being revealed. So we have a lot to talk about today, so let's dive into the details. I'm Yair Pinto, and this is your Boots on the Ground report about what is happening in Israel on day 542 of the war against Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis in Yemen, the Shiite militias in Iraq, and all the other armed groups in this region who are operating under the control of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps, which is the head of the axis of evil in the Middle East. And a moment before we begin, I want to invite you to click the subscribe button so that you stay tuned to the truth in real time and never miss another episode of Boots on the Ground. I also want to invite you to join the efforts to restore, renew, and rebuild together. You can be part of the mission by visiting tbn.org/rebuildisrael. So let's begin with the increasing tensions surrounding Iran, as the moves by the United States in the Arabian Gulf and the Middle East are very significant. The United States military is amassing forces and capabilities in preparation for a possible strike on Iran. This includes the deployment of the aircraft carrier USS Harry S. Truman and its battle group. The USS Carl Vinson and its battle group are on their way to the region from the Far East and will soon be within striking distance from Iran and from Yemen. And another carrier battle group is also being prepared for regional deployment. These ships operating in waters close to Iran and Yemen allow the United States to operate high-speed, high-power intensity combat operations that Iran will have difficulty responding to. But there is also the possibility of bringing even greater firepower to bear on Iran from the Indian Ocean island base of Diego Garcia. Diego Garcia Island is the largest of the Chago Island chain in the middle of the Indian Ocean, and it is part of the British Indian Ocean Territory. In practice, it hosts both a naval base and a large Air Force base jointly operated by the United States and British forces. And according to reports, B-2 Spirit bombers are currently stationed there. This is a powerful and unique stealth aircraft capable of carrying a very wide array of munitions, including bunker buster bombs and even nuclear weapons. The power of the United States military in the region is currently a critical mass, and Israel's intelligence echelon assesses that the forces already deployed are capable of crushing Iran's military, which is large but poorly equipped and poorly trained. For instance, the Iranian Air Force is still flying planes that Iran bought from the United States before the Islamic Revolution in 1979. The helicopter that was carrying the Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi when it crashed last May was one such aircraft. The president of Iran had no better options than to fly around in a 40-year-old helicopter, and you see what happened to him. Now, imagine that lower-ranked Iranian officers, not to even mention ordinary soldiers, have to work with that. Even some of the more modern equipment that the Iranian forces have, such as the S-400 air defensive batteries that they bought from Russia a few years ago, were almost completely destroyed by Israel's strikes on Iran on October 26th of last year. Still, Iran possesses thousands of missiles and tens of thousands of UAVs, some of which can fly thousands of kilometers. And in addition, Iran continues to support militias in Iraq, Syria, Jordan, Yemen, and Lebanon, although many of these militias have also been diminished in the past war against Israel and in this region over the last year and a half, and I'm talking about especially Hezbollah in Lebanon. So with all of this in mind, the United States President Donald Trump escalated his threats against Iran on Sunday afternoon in an interview with NBC on the same day that Iran announced that it is refusing direct negotiations with him on a new nuclear deal, but signaled openness to indirect talks. President Trump signaled impatience with this game, and he said that if they don't make a deal, there will be bombings like they've never seen before. However, President Trump also noted that American and Iranian officials are talking now, but it's unclear whether that meant direct talks, which Iran has rejected for now. And over the weekend, Tehran announced that it responded to the letter that Trump sent to Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, and through a message conveyed via Oman, expressed willingness to indirect negotiations, but insisted that direct dialogue with the United States cannot take place while threats and sanctions continue. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian also spoke on Sunday, saying that in response to Trump's message, we confirmed that we reject direct negotiations, but the path to indirect dialogue remains open. The behavior of the American officials will determine the course of the negotiations. This is according to the Iranians. Let us recall that after President Trump threatened military actions against the Iranian regime if it fails to reach a deal with the United States on its nuclear program, a senior Iranian military official told The Telegraph that Tehran would strike the United States-British joint naval base at Diego Garcia in response to any American attack. American officials do not seem to be very impressed with these threats. And if I can give you my own personal opinion, I don't think that anyone else should take these threats very seriously either. The Iranian regime has talked itself into believing it has a military power to successfully attack the Americans, but there are very good reasons to believe that this simply is not the case. Maybe they think that if they get into a fight with the Americans, their Russian and Chinese allies will come to their aid, but I doubt that will happen either. The Iranians are making a very foolish mistake by refusing President Trump's offer for negotiations, and soon we might see them suffering the consequences of this mistake. But in any case, guys, here at TBN Israel, we will continue to be monitoring the situation and every development in this situation and update you. And as always, we ask you to stay tuned to the truth about what is happening in Israel by pressing that subscribe button, helping us reach more people and sharing what is happening here in Israel. The most important thing that you can do is unite in prayer for the peace of Jerusalem. And now we switch our focus to the ongoing war against Hamas in the Gaza Strip, as Arab media portals reported that overnight between Sunday and Monday, 9 terrorists were eliminated in an Israeli Air Force strike on an apartment building in the Hamed neighborhood northwest of Khan Yunis in the southern Gaza Strip area. Strikes were also reported in other cities and in Rafah, the southernmost city inside the Gaza Strip. While senior Hamas officials once operated freely under the ceasefire, since hostilities resumed more than 2 weeks ago, Hamas members now fear of becoming targets of an Israeli intelligence and air power. Israeli security sources estimate that this is what ultimately led Hamas to engage in negotiations under fire with Israel via the mediators. Currently, Hamas is offering the release of 5 hostages in exchange for 50 days of ceasefire, and on the other hand, Israel demands the release of 11 living hostages and half of the hostages' bodies in exchange for 40 days of ceasefire. While this has been going on, Hamas has quietly and without warning began settling the score with the organizers and the participants of the protests, calling for them to leave Gaza and end the war with Israel. So Hamas is now targeting the Palestinians that stood up and said we had enough of war against Israel and we do not want Hamas in power. On Saturday, 6 Gazans were executed, including a resident of Tel El-Hawa in Gaza City, Uday El-Rubai, who's 22 years of age, executed by Hamas. Reports from Gaza say that after he called for protests and spoke out against Hamas, El-Rubai was kidnapped by the terrorist organization and brutally tortured for 4 hours, and this is including being beaten in the street in front of shocked bystanders. Hamas then returned him to his family just as he was taking his final breaths. This is to sow fear against any opposition within the Palestinians in the Gaza. This is how the Hamas terrorist organization treats the residents of the Gaza Strip, and you should know that. However, Israel is responding to the protest differently, including by appointing Yaakov Blisterin on Sunday to a position as head of the Directorate for the Voluntary Departure of Gaza Residents from the Gaza Strip. This was announced by Defense Minister Israel Katz, and according to the Ministry of Defense statement, the Directorate will operate to prepare and enable the safe and monitored passage of Gaza residents who wish to voluntarily relocate to third countries. This will include their protection in transit, the establishment of designated pedestrian crossings in Gaza, and coordinating the infrastructure that will allow travel via land, sea, and air to the destination countries. Israel's intelligence echelon estimates that the logistical and humanitarian blockade imposed on the Gaza Strip, combined with the military pressure, are having an effect, and there is movement in Hamas's positions, but at the same time, there are threats. If Hamas does not respond soon to the new proposal and is not ready to move forward, the pressure will increase. Here at TBN Israel, we will continue to update you on all the developments in the Gaza Strip moving forward, and as always, we ask you to help us by sharing our videos on YouTube, following on social media, subscribing to this YouTube channel, and praying for the peace of Jerusalem. And speaking of helping out, right now, so many families in Israel are struggling. The war has turned lives upside down. Businesses are closing. Parents are called away to serve in the IDF for many months every year. The cost of food is skyrocketing. People who never imagined needing help are suddenly unsure where their next meal will come from. That's where Leket Israel steps in. They're not just rescuing food, they're giving hope. Every day, they're delivering fresh produce and hot meals to families who need them most. They're out in the fields working with farmers to ensure that nothing goes to waste. They're on the front lines of this crisis, making sure that no one is left behind. But they can't do it without you. Leket Israel relies on donations to keep their vital work going. So your support means meals on tables for the people of Israel, assisting in the struggle to farmers, and relief for families caught inside this conflict. So please visit tbn.org/feedisrael and give what you can. Every donation makes a real difference. Now, back to the news and switching our focus to the threat from the Houthis in Yemen, where the results of the Israeli and the American strikes are beginning to come into focus. A senior Israeli official told the Saudi-owned Al Arabiya news portal over the weekend that the arsenal of ballistic missiles held by the Houthis has sharply diminished following the series of strikes carried out by Israel. This is in cooperation with the United States. And the source quoted in the report added that the Houthis now possess only a few dozen missiles and launch platforms, significantly reducing their ability to influence events in this area and to attack Israel. However, Sunday morning's attacks from Yemen into Israel is the 9th such incident since the end of the Gaza ceasefire. The United States military is operating with full force in Yemen, yet the Houthis continue to sporadic fire towards Israel, attempting to hit Ben Gurion International Airport, and according to their own statement, they want to disrupt all the flights to Israel. Their goal is to impose an air blockade on Israel in parallel with the naval blockade that they impose at the entrance to the Red Sea at the Bab el-Mandab Strait. So far, with considerable assistance from the American forces, the Israeli Air Force has managed to detect and intercept the missiles headed for Israel using the Arrow 3 system, and in some cases with American air defensive system that is deployed in Israel and in the region. Israel has also carried out a series of measures to prevent risk to aircraft at the Ben Gurion International Airport. Because the warning time from the moment of launch until it arrives in Israel allows the air controllers at the Air Force Control Unit to send incoming planes to a holding pattern over the Mediterranean Sea out of range of the missiles. Departing planes also have safety guidelines to reduce risks. These procedures are amongst the strictest safety measures for any airport in the world, and they have been developed over time in response to various threats, including the Houthis, but also attempts to attack the airport by the Hezbollah terrorist organizations and other groups like Hamas. We will continue to update you on what is happening in Israel, and we ask you to pray with us. Pray for the people of Israel. Pray for our hostages who are held in the Gaza Strip. We still have 59 hostages in Gaza held by Hamas terrorists. We want them home back fast. Pray for the IDF soldiers that are risking their lives, defending us in Gaza, in Lebanon, in Syria, in Judea and Samaria, and in the skies against the Houthis from Yemen and potentially against Iran. Let's unite in prayer, because this is a spiritual war, and we need your help in sharing the truth and in praying for the peace of Jerusalem. Prayers work. I feel it personally here in Israel, and God is gonna have all the answers to all of this complex situation. So let's unite in prayer for the peace of Jerusalem.
Hello, this is Mati here in Jerusalem with TBN Israel.
This is Yair Pinto from TBN Israel here in Jerusalem. TBN Israel is keeping viewers informed with Israel-focused news, culture, and what God is doing in this land.
Support TBN Israel today online at tbn.org/Israel. Thank you.